In the crowded streets of Manila, where every corner hums with life, a 12-year-old boy named Arvin Santos carried dreams much louder than the city's chaos. His home was a small wooden shack squeezed between concrete walls, where the air smelled of fried fish and engine smoke. His mother sold food at a small stall by the roadside, shouting prices while trying to stretch every coin she earned. Life was hard, but Arvin had something that gave him power: rhythm. While other kids played basketball or video games, he built his world with beats. He found old tin cans, plastic containers, and broken pots and turned them into drums. Every evening, as the sun melted behind Manila's skyline, Arvin would sit near the corner of the street and begin to play. The rhythm echoed through the alleys, a heartbeat of hope among people struggling to survive. He started rapping too, words about poverty, about hunger, about his mother's tired hands, and about his dream to make music that could change lives. His voice was raw but full of soul, carrying stories that everyone around him could feel. He would often say to his mother, "One day, I'll play for the whole world." She would smile, pat his shoulder, and whisper, "Then let the world hear you, Anik." One afternoon, while Arvin performed outside a market, a tourist couple stopped to listen. The man pulled out his phone and started recording as Arvin rapped and drummed in perfect rhythm. People began to gather, clapping and cheering. For Arvin, it was just another day of chasing rhythm, but that video would soon change his life forever. A week later, as he helped his mother pack food, a neighbor came running with a phone, shouting, "You're famous." Arvin's performance had gone viral overnight. Millions had watched his street performance, leaving comments calling him the Tabla rapper of Manila. News stations reached out, local radio shows wanted interviews, and his small neighborhood filled with pride. For the first time, Arvin felt like his beats were bigger than the streets of Manila. The same tourist who uploaded the video sent him a message saying, "Keep going, kid. You've got the world listening." Days turned into weeks, and Arvin's story spread beyond the Philippines. His social media pages overflowed with messages from fans and musicians around the globe. Then one morning, as he checked his phone, a message appeared with the logo of America's Got Talent. It was short and simple but enough to stop his heartbeat. "We'd love for you to audition for America's Got Talent Season 2025. Arvin stared at it, unable to move. He ran to his mother, yelling in disbelief. She dropped the spoon she was holding, tears instantly filling her eyes. "America. You're going to America," she whispered, her voice trembling with pride. They hugged each other tightly, their small home filled with joy and laughter. But reality hit soon after. They had no passport, no visa, and barely enough money to survive, let alone travel across the world. Arvin refused to give up. He began performing more, collecting donations, and his fans online started a fundraiser to help him travel. People he had never met were sending money, messages, and prayers. Weeks later, he finally held a passport in one hand and a plane ticket in the other. His mother packed his clothes neatly, adding a small photograph of his late father who had always wanted to see Arvin on a stage. At the airport, he hugged his mother tightly, promising to make her proud. "Play from your heart," she said softly. "That's where your father lives." As the plane soared into the sky, Arvin looked down at the glowing city that raised him. The beat of his heart matched the rhythm of his dreams. He closed his eyes and imagined the lights of America waiting for him, a Filipino boy with nothing but a tabla, a voice, and an unshakable dream to turn his rhythm into history. When Arvin arrived in Los Angeles, everything felt larger than life. The lights, the buildings, even the air carried a kind of confidence he had never known before. He stepped out of the airport clutching his tabla bag, his eyes wide with both excitement and fear. The smell of fresh asphalt and airport coffee filled the air as he whispered to himself, "This is it." For the next few days, he stayed in a small hotel arranged by the show's team. Every night, he practiced in his room until his fingers ached, tapping rhythms on his lap while quietly rapping to avoid disturbing the neighbors. He mixed Tagalog and English lyrics, trying to tell his story through music that could reach everyone, even those who didn't understand his language. But the closer the audition day came, the more nervous he felt. He would stare at himself in the mirror and ask, "Will they even understand me? What if they laugh?" The night before his audition, he called his mother back home in Manila. Her face appeared on the tiny screen, tired but full of pride. "Don't think about what they understand, Anik," she said. Music speaks to hearts, not to words. Her voice steadied him. When he hung up, he placed his father's photo on the table beside his drums and whispered, "Tomorrow, I'll make you proud." Sleep didn't come easy that night. His heart thumped like the rhythm of his tabla, a steady reminder of how far he'd come. The next morning, the sun shone bright over Pasadena as he arrived at the studio. The crowd of contestants buzzed with nervous laughter and energy. Some tuned guitars, others rehearsed dance routines, but Arvin just sat quietly with his tablas, feeling their cool surface under his fingers. When his name was called, his legs almost gave out. The stage lights blinded him as he stepped forward. He could see Simon Cowell, Sofia Vergara, and Howie Mandel sitting at the judges' table. Thousands of eyes stared back at him. A crew member handed him a microphone, and for a moment, the world went silent. Simon leaned forward. "What's your name?" he asked. "My name is Arvin Santos," the boy said nervously. "I'm from Manila, Philippines." Simon smiled slightly. "And what are you going to do for us today?" "I'm going to rap, sing, and play the tabla, all at the same time," Arvin replied. The crowd murmured in surprise. He sat on the small stool in the center of the stage, placed his tablas before him, and took a deep breath. Then, with one gentle tap, he began. The sound was soft at first, like a heartbeat. Slowly, the rhythm grew stronger, echoing through the theater. Then he started to rap, his voice low and full of emotion. The words flowed between English and Tagalog, telling a story of a boy who grew up with nothing but found music in everything. The audience leaned in, drawn to the rhythm. Midway through, he shifted seamlessly into singing, a smooth, melodic voice that filled the air with longing. Then he did what no one expected. He combined all three, rapping, singing, and drumming at once, each beat perfectly in time. The crowd erupted. People rose to their feet, clapping and shouting. When he finished, the last beat hung in the air for a second before Sophia hit the golden buzzer. Confetti burst above him, golden flakes raining down as Arvin covered his face, overwhelmed. Simon stood, clapping slowly, a smile crossing his face. "That," he said, "was something I've never seen before." Tears streamed down Arvin's cheeks as he looked up at the lights. It wasn't just victory, it was validation. The same boy who once performed for coins on the streets of Manila was now standing on one of the world's biggest stages, shining in gold. Backstage, he clutched his tablas, still trembling. "You did it," one of the producers said. But Arvin knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere deep inside, the rhythm was already forming for the next performance, louder and stronger than ever. After his golden buzzer performance, Arvin's world changed overnight. His name flooded social media platforms. Millions of people were talking about the Filipino boy who could rap, sing, and play the tabla all at once. News outlets from the Philippines covered his story with pride, calling him the boy who brought Manila to the world stage. But along with the fame came pressure. Everywhere he went, people expected perfection. His inbox filled with messages from producers, reporters, and fans, each one asking how he planned to top his last performance. For a boy who used to play on street corners, this kind of attention felt surreal. He was living in a world he had only dreamed about, but now that he was here, fear crept in quietly. What if his next act didn't impress the judges? What if this dream ended as quickly as it started? As the semi-final round approached, Arvin spent days in the rehearsal studio, searching for the right rhythm. He wanted to tell a story bigger than himself, a story about unity, hope, and how music connects people across languages. He experimented with new sounds, blending traditional tabla beats with electronic hip-hop and soft guitar melodies. The show's music director introduced him to American musicians who helped him create a modern twist on his signature performance. At first, he felt out of place. The other musicians spoke quickly, using terms he didn't always understand. Sometimes he would sit silently, feeling small and foreign. But every time he touched his tabla, everything made sense again. Music became his language, and slowly, the others started following his lead. On the night of the semi-finals, the arena was packed. As he stepped on stage, the lights dimmed, and a single spotlight shone on him. He started with slow, haunting beats, then added a low rap in English about his journey from the streets of Manila to America. Behind him, screens flashed images of children playing music, street vendors, and the Filipino flag waving in the breeze. Then the tempo picked up, and he began to sing, his voice blending with the rhythms like a heartbeat. By the end, the crowd was clapping along, completely caught up in his performance. When the last beat dropped, the audience erupted into applause. Howie Mandel said, "You don't just perform, you inspire." Simon nodded and said, "You've made this competition global tonight." Arvin smiled through tears, realizing that even if he didn't win, he had already done something much greater. The weeks between the semifinal and the grand finale were a whirlwind. He appeared on talk shows, met fans from all over the world, and received messages from young musicians in the Philippines who said he gave them hope. His mother's video calls became his daily motivation. "Just remember, Anik," she'd say, "whatever happens, you've already made history." But Arvin wasn't done yet. For the final performance, he wanted to dedicate his act to his father and to every child who dared to dream. He wrote new lyrics that told the story of a boy who turned pain into music. When the final night arrived, the air inside the theater was electric. Arvin stood backstage with his tablas, eyes closed, whispering a prayer. As the announcer called his name, he walked onto the stage and faced the audience one last time. This time, there were no backup musicians, no special effects, just him, his tabla, and a microphone. He started with silence, letting it hang in the air. Then he played the soft rhythm of a heartbeat, slow and steady. He began to rap about his life, his father's sacrifice, and his mother's strength. His voice cracked with emotion, but he didn't stop. Midway through, he transitioned into singing, the melody rising like a wave. The words spoke of hope, faith, and the power of never giving up. As his final verse ended, he hit the tabla one last time, the sound echoing across the room. The audience stood in complete silence for a moment before exploding into applause. Simon Cowell leaned into the microphone and said softly, "You didn't just perform, Arvin. You changed what music means." Though he didn't win the trophy that night, the world had already claimed him as their champion. As he walked off the stage, he looked up, smiling at the sky, whispering, "We did it, Papa." The lights faded, but his rhythm continued to echo in the hearts of millions, proving that dreams, like music, never